This is a review of material we've already covered this year, but I just wanted to spend one day practicing because we're going to add some more stuff to this week. So you can follow along on the notes I gave you. My slides are going to look a little different just because I was trying to save some room. So first, just a reminder that our graphing equation is y equals mx plus b. And you really need to start with b. B is the y-intercept, or your starting point. And so that means our point can be anywhere up and down the y-axis. And then the other part you need to know is m, and m is the slope. And we use the slope, we use that rise over run to help us figure out the diagonal part of our line, how steep our line is. And then we can use that to actually create a line. All right, so we're going to look at example number 1, which is y equals 2x minus 3. So first, you should start at -3. I'm going to make that thicker. So, and it's, again, it's always on the y-axis because that's the y-intercept. 1, 2, 3. And so that's the y-intercept. So on your table that you're filling out, the y-intercept would be -3. And the other thing you're supposed to ask for you to fill out is the slope. The slope would be 2, but when we're graphing, it really needs to be 2 over 1 because it needs to be a fraction. So if it's not a fraction, you just put a 1 underneath it. And so that's going to be our rise over run. So from my starting point, I'm going to rise 2, run 1, rise 2, run 1. And then you can work backwards. I can go down to backwards 1. So I'm going to connect my dots. That's not bad of a line. I did a pretty decent job. The other thing that I asked you to do on your paper is to tell me what the x-intercept is. And that is not given to you in the equation. You actually have to graph it. So if I look at the x-intercept, this is where my graph crosses the x-axis, which is right there. We're going to estimate this if it doesn't cross exactly. And so I'm going to say that is about 1.5. Or I could say that's about 1.5. I don't know exactly sure. All right, we'll look at example 2. So y equals 1/3 x plus 1. So I'm going to start at 1. And fractions are our friends, and this is perfect because the 1 tells me that should be my rise, and the 3 is telling me that it is my run. So I'm going to rise 1, run 3. My screen doesn't really like me touching it. So to work backwards, I'm going to go down 1 and backwards 3. So on your chart, besides graphing, you should tell me that the 1 is the y-intercept, the 1/3 is the slope, and my x-intercept, I'm going to look at the graph, is at at -3 this time. It actually lands exactly on an intercept. So here's number 2. I have y equals x plus 2. So I'm going to start at 2. And you should remember that slope is a coefficient of x. So slope is a number that's in front of x. And I don't have a number, but we should all realize that that is a 1. And then to make it a fraction, it's 1 over 1. So I'm going to rise 1, run 1. These are always the easiest ones to graph. And then I can work backwards 2, go down 1 backwards. I'm going to try to make a nice line. Not too bad. So this is the y-intercept for your table. Whoops. 1 would be your slope. And the x-intercept I have to get from the graph. And here's the x-intercept. That's where it crosses the x-axis at -2. All right, our last example, y equals -3/4 x. So this doesn't actually tell me where to start, but it does because it should say that this is plus 0. We don't have to write plus 0. So I should start at the origin at 0. And then there's my rise and my run. So I either need to put the negative with the 3 or put the negative with the 4 when I'm counting my rise or run. I can't put the negative with both of them because double negatives give us a positive, and then I would be changing the value of the slope. And I can't, it has to stay negative. So if I look at it, most of you, I actually can't remember what most of you do. I tend to look at it this way. So rise, I'm not actually going to be rising. I'm going to be doing down 3, and then I'm going to still run 4. So I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2, 3, 4, and I can repeat that 1, 2, 3, 1. Or I could look at it this way. I'm rising positive 3, but if I see my 4 is being negative, that means I have to go in the backwards direction. So I'm going to rise 3, and then my 4 is negative, so I have to go backwards 4. And you can still see I'm getting points that fall on that same exact line. So to finish your table, you should tell me that the y-intercept is 0. The slope is negative 3/4. And then if I look at my graph, I need to find the x-intercept. The x-intercept is also 0. I'm writing too fast for my computer right now. It does not want to keep up. So I hope this was a good review for you, and now that you can complete the practice. On the practice, there's definitely a couple x-intercepts that are in a really weird place. So just do a rough estimate, and if you have something that's close to what I have, that is perfectly fine. When you're in algebra next year, you will learn how to find that exact x-intercept. So stay safe, stay healthy, and practice some math.